Hello and welcome, or welcome back if you've been here before. Today, I want to talk about upgrading your interiors and how to do that in small ways that's going to make a really big difference to your space. I think this is a really important topic because I get asked so much about how you can do this, how you can implement change in your space without having to do a full renovation or a full rehaul of your space to make it feel different. And I think there's often this idea that in order to do that, you need to go out and spend a lot of money and replace all your furniture and all your homewares, which is really just not feasible for 99.9% of people. So I want to share some things that you can do that will elevate your space, make it feel new, give it a bit of a refresh, and doing that on a budget. And in some instances, not having to spend any money at all. It's just about reassessing and rearranging your space. So that's what I want to talk about today. If you're interested, stick around. And if you want to see more of my content, you can follow me on Instagram at Hannah_____what, which was the only username I had available. And everything is linked down in the description box below. But let's talk about how you can upgrade your interiors in thoughtful and cost-effective ways. The first task is to declutter. So many people say to me, I have so much stuff, I don't know where to start, there's too many choices, I can't make a decision. And I get it. It can be really overwhelming, particularly when you don't have maybe interior design experience or it's new to you. I would say the first thing you need to do is to cull items and just do it one room at a time. I'm not saying go and do your whole house or your whole apartment by any means. That is just going to set you back because it's going to be too much in one go. Pick a room that you really want to start with. Let's say it's your bedroom or your living room. And start with one section of that room. So it's taking baby steps and really working in one area of the space rather than trying to think of it as a whole scenario, a whole room at once. So maybe you're starting with a bookshelf and you can start by literally just taking things off one shelf, looking at the items and saying, okay, do I use this? When was the last time I used this? Do I love it? Do I really want this in my space? Once you start looking at the things in your space and assessing them, it allows you to realize what you've got and whether or not you actually want to keep it in your space, whether it still aligns with your aesthetics or if you just don't really have a use for it anymore. You can work through this by grouping items into things you definitely want to keep, things you want to donate or give away, and then things you want to get rid of. And this just helps to sort of compartmentalize the items that you have and give you a little bit of a framework for reorganizing your space. When you do this in one room, I promise you it will have a flow-on effect and you'll want to do it in other rooms, even if you're not a super organized person, because you will see the effect that it has on your space and how it makes you feel. When we get rid of unnecessary things, it's like a cleanse. It's like a detox in a way because we're bringing new life to the space by highlighting the things that we actually want to keep and that we actually love and getting rid of the things that no longer really serve us. So this is my first suggestion. And I know it's kind of a boring one. I mean, not for me. I love to declutter and organize, but it's really going to give you the foundation for then moving on to the next steps of upgrading your home and your interiors to make your space feel way better. The next thing I'm going to suggest is rearranging your furniture. You might be surprised at how much of a difference this can actually make to the spaces in your home. Instead of going out and feeling like you need to buy all new furniture, rearrange the pieces that you have, swap them from one room to another or get rid of pieces altogether. So the first tip that I want to say is define the purpose of your space. So think about how on a day-to-day basis you use that space or how you want to use that space but aren't currently doing so. Think about, do I want this space to feel more open? Do I want it to feel more cozy? Do I want it to be more functional? These are the questions that you need to ask yourself so that you can play with the layout in a way that kind of speaks to that. So that will kind of be your anchoring point, defining the purpose of the space. The second thing is to define the focal point of the room. So most rooms have a focal point. For example, it might be a fireplace. It might be, your bed in your bedroom. It might be the TV if that is, what you want it to be. But by defining what you kind of want the key feature to be in that room, again, that's going to help you to rearrange and design the space around that particular item. So for example, if we're talking about a fireplace, maybe that will guide you to wanting to have two sofas or a sofa and a couple of armchairs that are sort of orientated in a way that brings the fireplace into the space and makes it feel connected to the layout and the furniture around you. Or if it is, a really big window with a beautiful view, orient the furniture toward that so that you're maximizing its potential, making the space work in a more functional and enjoyable way. If you have an open plan layout, for example, you might use rugs to define the zones in your space. It can be a little bit tricky with open plan because the spaces can often bleed into one, but if you want to create that separation, rugs are a really good way to kind of define those spaces and to really keep the function isolated without making them feel completely closed off. So you might have a rug under your dining room table and that defines that dining room space. You might have one or two rugs to define the living room area depending on the size of it. And this is just a really simple way, especially if you have open plan or you're living in a studio apartment or something, it will, as I said, define those spaces and their functionality. If you have a limited floor space, for example, if you live in a smaller apartment or a studio and you want to incorporate more things or rearrange things, I would say make use of the vertical space, which is often something that people don't really think of, or it's not really like the first port of call, but playing with pendant lights or taller bookshelves or taking up more wall space, oftentimes that will actually make your space feel a lot taller, like it has higher ceilings. Again, with curtains, you can raise them up closer to the roof, so it gives that illusion of height. You can integrate plants that are taller in the space. But making use of that vertical landscape will make a big difference. It will make your space feel bigger. The ceilings will feel higher. It will draw your eye upwards as opposed to just immediately being drawn to everything that's on a lower scale. And that's something you can do really easily, and it really doesn't cost much to integrate those things into your space. If you want to take it one step further, I'm going to suggest painting your space. That doesn't have to be the whole home or apartment. It can be maybe just one room that you really feel like needs a refresh. And that could be anything from a bathroom to a kitchen, bedroom, living room, even a laundry. It doesn't matter. If there's always that one space that you feel like really needs a refresh, that you want to feel invigorated in, that you want to change the feeling of, then giving a room a lick of paint is the best way to do it. Painting a room instantly changes the mood and feel of it. You can do color drenching where you paint everything in the room, where it's all the walls, skirtings, architraves, the ceiling, and that's going to give a really cocooned and rich feeling. Or if you want the space to feel open, you can paint it in lighter tones, more neutral tones, softer colors that's going to allow the light to bounce off and create a more open feeling to the space. Particularly if you live in a rental, painting is a really good way to make the space feel like it's yours. There's often people that have been living there for years before you. The walls are scuffed a lot of the time, unless you have a good property manager who makes sure it gets painted. But a lot of the time, rentals aren't really taken care of that well. And if you have the money to and decide to give it a bit of paint, it will honestly make the space feel new. You can bring your furniture and items into that space knowing that you have a really good base layer to start with. I think that whenever you're painting a space, it can always inject a new sense of inspiration. So even if you're keeping the functionality of the space the same, let's say it's a home office, just by giving it a new paint color or a new lick of paint, I find it can be really inspiring to then want to reorganize and redesign the space with the furniture that you have, and it just gives a refresh and makes you feel like you want to be in that space again and that it feels new. Now, here are some smaller scale things that you can do to upgrade one or several rooms in your house. Let's talk about your bathroom. Let's say that your bathroom is pretty plain. Maybe it's just like an all white bathroom and you have white towels. Injecting some color into the space through towels and linen. So maybe you'll get some new bath towels or a bath mat that has a print or pattern on it. Maybe it's a new color, and it doesn't have to be crazy. It can even still be a different neutral tone. But just making that one difference already can add new life to the space. Think about decluttering your bathroom. If you have a million bottles in the shower, a lot of crap on display, think about how you can maybe hide that in some new storage. It can be a basket, it can be, if you have enclosed storage, try and put that stuff away so that you're only displaying things that you actually want to see. Whether that's a really nice soap bottle or a candle, just those little accents that are actually going to make the space feel a little bit more expensive, a little bit more considered. It's really easy to think, oh, it's fine, it's just the bathroom, I've just got bottles and crap everywhere, I don't really care, I only come in here to shower and that's that. But you'd actually be surprised about how much seeing that on a daily basis impacts the space and impacts how you feel in the space. So if you try to declutter that area and just have the things on display that you actually like and want to look at, that in itself will make such a big difference. If you can swap out the hardware on the cabinetry, again, it's the small details that are cumulative that will bring the space together. And it seems like a small thing, but it makes a really big difference. Again, if it's your bedroom, maybe you want to think about swapping out your bedding, and it doesn't have to be the whole thing. It doesn't have to be the doona cover and a million new blankets and sheets. Maybe it's just either swapping out your pillowcases for something new, or adding a couple of decorative pillows if that is your style. Swapping out a side table for something a bit more interesting, or your bedside lamp, or hanging a new piece of artwork in your bedroom. Moving your bed around, like I said, rearranging the space in itself is just a really easy way to make it feel new. Think about creating a custom headboard that you can do yourself so easily. It's literally just a piece of plywood, some foam, a fabric of your choosing, which makes it feel custom and unique to you, and a staple gun. Really easy to do, makes a very big impact and a very big difference. Layering your lighting, instead of just relying on feral overhead lights, think about how you can maybe have a pendant and maybe some wall lights, or don't even have any overhead lighting, just have wall lights and a bedside lamp, and see how those lights interact with each other and make the space feel really layered and cozy. If it's your kitchen, invest in some really cool tea towels, some ceramics, maybe just some styling items, even if it's a really nice mortar and pestle or a percolator like a stovetop coffee maker. Having these things on display really just make a big difference, and it's, as I said, it's the smaller things that are really going to elevate your space. So think about decluttering and putting away the things that you don't really like looking at, and having things out on display on your benchtop that actually bring you joy. So for me, for example, I like to have an Aesop soap bottle. Whether or not it's got the Aesop soap in it, it doesn't really matter, but that creates a really nice experience for me when I use the space, because it reminds me of that brand and how I feel using that product, and I want to integrate that into my home. You know, you might have a really nice incense burner, you might have a little coffee machine. It's all the things, it's kind of like the daily rituals of the things that you love that you have on display that remind you of yourself and how you want your space to feel. So I think that's the fourth or fifth tip of think about restyling spaces with items that you already have by putting stuff away that you don't want to look at, and having the things on display that make you feel really happy and bring you joy and are a true reflection of your aesthetic and style. Anyway, those are just some small things I think you can do to make your space feel new and give it a bit of an upgrade. I know when I was living in my old apartment, I was there for like 8 years, and this was something I did on the reg because it can get very stale living in the same place for a long time. And this is just a really easy way to make it feel new and make you feel like you want to be in the space a little bit more. I hope that this has been helpful and that you maybe implement some of these things in your space. And if you do and you want to share them with me, I would love to see them. You can send me a before and after on my Instagram, which I will link down below. I'm also thinking about doing a free advice, like a free design advice video for you guys. So if you have a room or a space in your house that you're kind of stuck with and you want some advice on, feel free to send me a couple of images, landscape, to my email, and I'll create a video and talk about maybe what you can do and how you can elevate the space. Again, I'll put my email in the description box below if you want to send me something. Feel free to follow me on Instagram for more content. I'm trying to get into like the content creation mindset and uploading stuff to Instagram. So it's a little bit of a slow process, but I'm getting into it, and I'm really enjoying having conversations with you guys about interiors, and yeah, it's just been fun. So I'm also going to be uploading a vlog this week, which is a little bit different for me, but want to include some more sort of lifestyle and fashion content, as well as just these interior sit-down chats. So I think I'm going to be uploading that on Wednesday. But yeah, I hope this video was helpful and that everyone's doing well, and I'll see you in the next one.